The enormous chamber of the Galactic Council fell silent as Ambassador Deho stepped forward to the speaker's platform. Around him, hundreds of alien species watched from their designated sections. Some had multiple eyes, others had none. Some breathed oxygen, others existed in sealed environments filled with gases toxic to most life. They all waited to hear what the human representative would say. Deho looked at the assembly without emotion. He had served Earth in this chamber for 15 years. He had argued for fair trade agreements, defended human colonies from territorial disputes, and worked tirelessly to build relationships with dozens of alien civilizations. Today would be his last day here. Honored members of the Galactic Council, he began, his voice steady and clear. I stand before you to deliver a final message from the government of Earth and all human territories. Effective immediately, humanity is withdrawing from all treaties, agreements, and diplomatic relations with this council and its member civilizations. Our borders are now closed. Our trade routes are suspended. Our embassies will be vacated within 48 hours. This decision is final and non-negotiable. The chamber erupted. Alien voices in dozens of languages filled the air. Translators struggled to keep up with the flood of questions and protests. The insectoid representative from the Hive Collective clicked her mandibles in distress. The floating crystal entity representing the Luminar consciousness pulsed with colors that indicated confusion and alarm. The amphibious Tide Lord slammed his webbed hand against his desk. Demanding an explanation, Deho waited for the noise to die down. When it didn't, he simply bowed once and walked away from the platform. His footsteps echoed in the vast chamber as he made his way to the exit. Behind him, chaos continued to spread through the council. By the time he reached the door, 3 different ambassadors were shouting at each other, each blaming the other for whatever had caused humanity to take this drastic action. On Earth, in the sprawling command center beneath Geneva, Jiwoo stood before a wall of screens showing the locations of every human ship, station, and colony in the galaxy. As Chief of Planetary Defense, she had spent the last 6 months preparing for this moment. Now that it had arrived, she felt both relieved and terrified. Begin Operation Homecoming, she ordered. Across the galaxy, human vessels received their encrypted instructions. Trade convoys carrying goods to alien markets turned around mid-journey. Military patrols guarding the borders of human territory began falling back to predetermined positions. Colonists on worlds shared with other species were given evacuation orders. The entire human presence in the galaxy was contracting, pulling back toward the Sol system like a tide retreating from the shore. The alien civilizations watched and growing, alarm as humanity disappeared before their eyes. Automated defense platforms appeared around human territory, placing the mixed security forces that had previously guarded the borders. These new platforms broadcast a simple message in every known language. Humanity no longer accepts diplomatic contact. Leave immediately or be destroyed. Ambassador Naltair of the Vrex Dominion refused to believe that humanity would truly cut off all communication. The Vrex had maintained trade relations with Earth for over a century. Surely this was some kind of political maneuver, a negotiating tactic, to gain better terms on some agreement. He dispatched 3 of his fastest courier ships to approach the human border and request a meeting. The ships never made it past the first line of defense platforms. Automated weapons locked onto them the moment they crossed into what was now restricted space. Warning shots fired across their bows. The lead captain, a veteran Vrex commander who had fought in 3 wars, immediately recognized the danger. These weren't warning shots meant to scare them away. They were precise demonstrations of targeting capability. The next shots would not miss. Retreat, he ordered his small fleet. Full speed. Now, they barely made it out. As they crossed back over the border, they detected dozens of additional weapons platforms that had been hidden, waiting. If they had proceeded another 1,000 kilometers, they would have flown into a trap that no ship could have escaped. Back at the council, the emergency session continued for 18 hours. Representatives who had barely spoken to each other in decades now found themselves united in confusion and fear. What had humanity discovered? What had changed? The youngest member of the council, a civilization that had joined only 50 years before humanity, pointed out the obvious question that everyone was thinking but afraid to ask. What if they've found something out there? Something dangerous? What if they're trying to protect themselves from a threat we don't know about? An older representative, whose species had been part of the council for over 3,000 years, dismissed this idea. Humans are emotional creatures, impulsive. They've probably had some internal political upheaval, and this is the result. Give them a few months and they'll come crawling back when they realize how much they need us. But months passed and humanity did not return. The quantum barriers surrounding human space grew stronger and more sophisticated. Not even the most advanced scanning technology could penetrate them. It was as if humanity had pulled a curtain across their territory and dared anyone to peek behind it. The economic impact hit quickly. Human manufacturers had become essential to galactic commerce over the past century. They produced the most reliable quantum drives, the most advanced medical equipment, and computational systems that outperformed anything else available. Without access to human goods, several smaller civilizations faced immediate shortages. Counselor Yelenoth, an elderly being whose species specialized in economic analysis, presented a dire report to the assembly. If humanity maintains this isolation, we project that 14 civilizations will face critical supply shortages within 6 months. 23 more will experience significant economic disruption. The longer this continues, the worse it becomes. We need humanity back at the negotiating table. But how could they negotiate with someone who refused to talk? Every attempt to communicate with Earth was met with silence or automated rejection. It was as if humanity had simply decided that the rest of the galaxy no longer existed. In a small apartment, on a station orbiting the Luminar homeworld, a human journalist named Young Mi worked late into the night. She had chosen to stay behind when the evacuation orders came, one of only a handful of humans who remained in alien space. As a journalist, she felt obligated to document what was happening from this side of the divide. She was writing an essay about what she knew, about the patterns she had observed during her years covering galactic politics, the systematic ways that human proposals were delayed or rejected, the trade agreements that seemed designed to keep Earth dependent on alien suppliers, the subtle but constant message that humanity was tolerated but not truly welcomed as equals. Her fingers hesitated over the keyboard. Publishing this would make her a target. The council had ways of silencing voices that challenged the official narrative. But if she didn't speak up, who would? She took a breath and hit the publish button, sending her essay into the Galactic Information Network. Within hours, it had spread to millions of readers. Within days, council censors had removed it from official channels. But the damage was done. People across the galaxy were asking questions they had never asked before. And somewhere behind humanity's impenetrable barrier, Earth was preparing for what would come next. Captain Tae-young stood at attention in the private chamber of High Counselor Zelkoth, trying not to show his discomfort. He had left Earth 12 years ago after disagreeing with humanity's military policies. He had found a new life serving as a tactical advisor to various alien governments. Now his former people had sealed themselves away, and the powers of the galaxy wanted his expertise to understand why. "You know humans better than anyone else here," Zelkoth said, his crystalline form refracting light in sharp patterns. "Tell me what they're planning." Tae-young chose his words carefully. "With respect, Counselor, if humanity has chosen isolation, they have their reasons. Trying to force contact might be exactly the wrong approach." "That's not what I asked," Zelkoth replied coldly. "The Council has authorized covert operations to penetrate human space and gather intelligence. You will lead a team. Your knowledge of human security protocols will be invaluable." Wasn't a request. Tae-young had no choice but to agree, even as doubt gnawed at him. He suspected that whatever humanity was doing, they had good reason for it. But orders were orders. The first infiltration attempt was launched by the Hive Collective's intelligence service. They sent a stealth ship equipped with the most advanced cloaking technology available. It could slip past almost any detection system ever designed. The ship approached the Sol system's outer boundary. Its crew of 6 experienced operatives, confident in their equipment and training, they never reported back. Search parties found no debris, no evidence of destruction. The ship and its crew had simply vanished as if they had never existed. The Hive Collective lodged an official protest with the Council, though they couldn't prove what had happened. Humanity remained silent. The Luminar consciousness tried next, using a completely different approach. Instead of physical infiltration, they attempt to breach humanity's information networks through quantum communication channels. The Luminars were masters of information technology, their digital warfare capabilities unmatched in the known galaxy. Attempt lasted exactly 4 seconds before the Luminar systems were hit with a counter-intrusion so severe that it shut down their entire intelligence division for 3 days. When they finally restored their systems, they found a simple message waiting. Nice try. Don't do it again. 3 more attempts by different civilizations met similar fates. An espionage drone was disabled and returned to its owners with a polite note thanking them for the free technology. A bioengineered infiltrator designed to pass as human was detected before even reaching human space. A team of telepathic scouts who tried to read the minds of humans at the border found their own thoughts scrambled so badly that they needed months of psychological rehabilitation. It became clear that humanity hadn't just improved their defenses, they had achieved some level of technological advancement that made conventional intelligence gathering impossible. This realization terrified the Council more than anything else. The economic situation grew worse. Without human-manufactured quantum drives, interstellar shipping became expensive and inefficient. Medical facilities that relied on human equipment faced critical shortages. Dozens of civilizations that had based their economic development on access to human technology now struggled to maintain their infrastructure. Ambassador Valkyries of the Tide Collective called for increasingly aggressive measures. Humanity is holding the galaxy hostage, he declared during a council session. They built our dependence on their products, and now they use it as leverage. This is economic warfare. But leverage for what? That was what confused everyone. Humanity wasn't making demands. They weren't threatening anyone. They were just gone, existing behind their barrier in complete isolation. What kind of leverage was valuable if you never used it? Youngmi's essay continued to circulate through underground networks despite the Council's censorship efforts. More and more people were reading it, and some were starting to ask uncomfortable questions. A movement began among the younger civilizations, those who had joined the Council within the last few centuries. They called themselves the Emergence Coalition, and they wanted answers about how the Council treated its newer members. Tae-young led his team on 3 separate attempts to breach human defenses, and all 3 failed. On the last attempt, they got within visual range of a human defense station. What he saw troubled him deeply. The technology on display was generations ahead of what he remembered from his time in Earth's military. Either humanity had been hiding their capabilities for decades, or they had achieved breakthroughs that should have been impossible in such a short time. They didn't do this in 6 months, he told Zelkoth after the failed mission. This level of advancement takes years, maybe decades. Whatever triggered their withdrawal, they were preparing for it long before they left the Council. This information should have made the Council more cautious. Instead, it made them more desperate. If humanity had been secretly developing advanced technology while pretending to be a junior member of galactic civilization, what else had they been hiding? Were they planning an expansion? A conquest? The paranoia grew with each passing day. The Vrex Dominion, frustrated by the Council's inability to take decisive action, decided to force the issue. They assembled a battle fleet of 300 warships, the largest military deployment seen in the galaxy in over a century. Their plan was simple: blockade the Sol system, cut humanity off from any resources they might still be gathering from outside their territory, and force them to negotiate. "We won't fire the first shot," Vrex High Commander Corvin announced, "but we will make it clear that isolation is not an option. Humanity will return to the Council, or they will face the consequences." The fleet arrived at the edge of human space with great fanfare. Dozens of civilizations watched through live feeds as the mighty Vrex Armada took up positions around the quantum barrier. For 6 hours, they broadcast demands for humanity to respond. For 6 hours, they received silence. Then, without warning, every ship in the fleet went dark. Engines stopped. Weapons systems failed. Life support switched to emergency backup power. Communications cut out. 300 warships drifted helplessly in space, unable to move, unable to fight. Unable to even call for help, human defense platforms appeared around the disabled fleet. Dozens of them, though no one had detected their approach. They didn't fire. They didn't need to. The message was clear. Humanity could have destroyed the entire fleet at any moment. Instead, they had simply turned it off like someone flipping a switch. After 1 hour, the wreck systems came back online, though all weapons remained disabled. A message appeared on every ship's main screen. You have made your statement. We have made ours. Leave now and tell your council that the next fleet will not be returned intact. The Vrex fleet retreated in shame. High Commander Corvin was relieved of his position. The Dominion's reputation as a military power was shattered. And the galaxy finally understood the truth. Humanity wasn't hiding behind their barrier because they were afraid. They were behind it because they had surpassed everyone else and chose not to engage anymore. Tae-young watched the footage of the disabled Vrex fleet and felt something he hadn't experienced in years. Pride, his people. The civilization he had left behind had become something extraordinary, and now he needed to understand why they had chosen to abandon the galaxy instead of leading it. The answer, he suspected, would not make the Council happy. The classified archives of the Galactic Council were supposed to be impenetrable. Thousands of years of sensitive records, protected by security systems designed by the most advanced civilizations in known space. Tae-young had no illusions about his ability to breach them through conventional means. Fortunately, he didn't have to. A member of the Emergence Coalition contacted him secretly. She was a data analyst named Corlin, whose species had joined the Council 200 years ago. She had access to the archives as part of her official duties, and she had found something that disturbed her deeply. She needed someone with the credibility to bring it to light. Someone with connections to humanity, but who worked for the Council. They met in a neutral location, a trade station run by an independent merchant guild. Corlin arrived looking nervous, carrying a data storage device that she handled like it might explode. "Before I show you this," she said quietly, "you need to understand something. I believed in the Council. I thought we were building something good, something fair. But after reading these files, I don't know what to believe anymore." She activated the device. Holographic documents appeared, thousands of them, spanning centuries. Tae-young began reading, and with each page, his expression grew darker. The files revealed a pattern of systematic manipulation. Every time humanity proposed a new technology for shared development, Council committees had delayed approval through bureaucratic procedures. Trade agreements that appeared beneficial on the surface contained clauses that created dependency on alien suppliers for key resources. Human requests for expanded colonization rights were denied, based on technicalities, while other civilizations received approvals for similar requests, but it went deeper. The Council had conducted secret assessments of humanity's development potential. The projections were alarming to the older civilizations. At humanity's rate of advancement, they would match the Council's most powerful members within a century. Within 2 centuries, they might surpass everyone. The oldest members of the Council had made a decision. Humanity would be contained. Not through obvious oppression, which would create sympathy among younger civilizations, but through subtle limitation. Keep them dependent. Keep them regulated. Keep them controlled. Never let them realize their full potential. They were afraid, Corlin said softly. The ancient powers spent thousands of years building their positions. Humanity threatened that in just 3 centuries. Tae-young felt sick. He had left Earth believing that his people were being stubborn and short-sighted in their dealings with the Council. Now he understood that the game had been rigged from the start. "I need to get this to the right people," he said. "Hoped you'd say that," Corlin replied, "because there's someone who wants to meet you." The meeting was arranged through encrypted channels that even the Council's intelligence services couldn't trace. Tae-young found himself in a small room on a remote asteroid, face-to-face with someone he had never expected to see again. Ambassador Meeson looked older than he remembered, but her eyes were as sharp as ever. She had officially left with the rest of humanity's diplomatic corps 6 months ago, but clearly she had remained in some capacity. "You've seen the files," she said. It wasn't a question. "Why now?" Tae-young asked. "Why reveal this now?" "Because the galaxy needs to understand what's really happening," Misan replied. "Humanity didn't leave because we were angry or impulsive. We left because we discovered we had no future in the Council as it exists. They were preparing to formalize the limitations, to make them permanent through a binding treaty. We chose freedom over chains." She produced another data device, this one containing even more damning evidence. Communications between senior council members discussing the human problem. Proposals for technology restrictions. Plans for economic measures that would keep Earth dependent on council resources, all of it carefully designed to look like normal bureaucratic process rather than deliberate sabotage. "We gave them chances," Misun continued. "For decades, we tried to work within the system. We filed complaints, we negotiated, we compromised. Nothing changed. So we started preparing for the day when we would have to leave. That day came sooner than we hoped, but we were ready." Taeyong studied the documents, his military training helping him understand the implications. "You've been developing advanced technology in secret for how long?" 30 years, Misun admitted. "We couldn't do it openly because every breakthrough would have been subject to council, review, and approval. Every innovation would have been delayed, diluted, or outright blocked. So we created black projects, hidden research facilities, secret development programs. We advanced as fast as we could where they couldn't see us. That's why the Vrex fleet was disabled so easily. That fleet was disabled using technology we developed 15 years ago," Misun said with a slight smile. "We've advanced far beyond that now, but we don't want conflict. We just want to be left alone to grow without artificial limitations." She leaned forward, her expression serious. "The Council is fracturing. The younger civilizations are starting to ask if they're being treated fairly. The Emergence Coalition is growing. If we release this evidence publicly, it could tear the Council apart. But it might also force real change. We need to decide if that's worth the chaos it will create." Tae-young thought about his years serving the Council, believing he was part of something noble. He thought about the Vrex fleet, humiliated but returned safely. Humanity could have destroyed them but chose mercy instead. That said something important about his people's intentions. "Release it," he said. "The truth deserves to be known." Over. The next week, the evidence spread through the galaxy like wildfire. News networks that couldn't be controlled by the Council picked up the story. The Emergence Coalition held massive rallies on dozens of worlds. Younger civilizations demanded investigations. The ancient powers of the Council scrambled to control the damage, but it was too late. Ambassador Velcaris tried to dismiss the documents as forgeries. But too many people had access to the originals now. Councillor Yelnoth called for calm and promised reforms, but his words rang hollow against the weight of evidence. The Vrex Dominion, already humiliated by their failed blockade, remained silent in the midst of the chaos. A message appeared simultaneously on every major communication network in the galaxy. It was from High Commander Jaehoon of the Terran Stellar Command, a military organization that hadn't existed 6 months ago. As people of the galaxy, the message began. Humanity has watched the recent developments with great interest. The truth about our departure is now public knowledge. We were not driven away by fear or anger. We left because we refused to accept artificial limitations on our development and potential. We chose independence over comfortable subordination. The message continued. In 1 week, we will provide a demonstration of what humanity has achieved during our isolation. Direct your observation equipment toward the Kepler Nebula. What you see there will explain why we believe our decision was correct. We hope the galaxy will choose to join us in building a better future, one based on mutual respect rather than hierarchical control. The message ended, leaving billions of beings across the galaxy wondering what humanity would reveal. The Council called an emergency session, but for the first time in its long history. Half the member civilizations refused to attend. The old order was crumbling, and everyone knew that what came next would reshape galactic civilization forever. Taeyong sat in his quarters. watching the chaos unfold on news feeds from across the galaxy. He had helped trigger this. For better or worse, there was no going back now. In 1 week, the galaxy would see what humanity had become. He hoped his former people knew what they were doing. Every civilization with telescopes and sensors, capable of reaching the Kepler Nebula, pointed them in that direction. The nebula was a massive stellar nursery 3,000 light-years from Earth, a region where new stars were being born from clouds of gas and dust. It was beautiful, scientifically interesting, but strategically worthless. Or so everyone had thought. When the appointed time arrived, observers across the galaxy saw something that shouldn't exist. Around one of the young star systems in the nebula, humanity had built a structure of impossible scale. It wrapped around the entire system like a shell, massive panels and frameworks that caught and directed the star's energy. It was a megastructure, the kind of construction project that should take thousands of years and the combined resources of multiple civilizations. Humanity had built it in secret, and they had done it alone. The council chamber erupted in panic. Even the ancient civilizations, who had seen many wonders in their long histories, couldn't hide their shock. This wasn't just advanced technology. This was a fundamental demonstration that humanity had surpassed them in engineering capability, resource management, and organizational ability. How? Counselor Zelkov demanded, his crystalline form flashing with agitated colors. How did they transport materials across 3,000 light-years? How did they construct something this massive without anyone noticing? The answer came from human scientists who released detailed technical papers explaining their methods. They hadn't transported materials in the traditional sense. They had developed new forms of faster-than-light travel that didn't rely on the quantum drives everyone else used. They had created self-replicating construction systems that could build themselves using materials harvested directly from asteroids and planets in the target system. They had designed artificial intelligence, systems that could coordinate millions of tasks. Simultaneously, without human oversight, every single technology described in those papers was beyond what the Council's most advanced civilizations could produce. The gap wasn't small. It was enormous. A difference measured in generations of development. Ambassador Nelter sat in his office, reading the technical papers with growing despair. His people, the Vreks, had spent thousands of years perfecting their military technology. They were supposed to be the dominant force in the galaxy. Now he was reading about human defensive systems that could disable entire fleets without firing a shot. About propulsion systems that made Vrex warships look like ancient toys. About energy weapons that could vaporize planets. The papers weren't threats. They were just information, shared freely so everyone would understand the new reality. That somehow made it worse. Humanity didn't need to threaten anyone. Their capabilities spoke for themselves, on a council station orbiting the Luminar homeworld. Young Mi watched the chaos unfold with mixed feelings. She had stayed behind to document the story, expecting to witness the council's response to humanity's isolation. She hadn't expected to see the entire galactic order collapse in real time. Her communication console beeped. A message from Earth, the first she had received since the withdrawal. It was from an old friend, a fellow journalist named Sang Woo, who now worked for Earth's Science Ministry. "You wanted the whole story," the message said. "Here it is. Come home, and we'll show you everything." Premier Zelkov called an emergency meeting of the Council's senior leadership. The ancient powers gathered in a secure chamber, away from the observation of younger civilizations. They needed to decide on a response before the situation spiraled further out of control. "We must act decisively," Zalkoth said. "Humanity has become a threat to the established order. If we allow this to continue, our authority will crumble completely." "You're suggesting military action?" asked the Tide Lord representative, his amphibious face showing skepticism. "After what happened to the Vrex fleet?" "A coordinated strike," Zalkoth insisted. "Every major military power acting together. Even humanity cannot stand against the combined might of the entire council." But several representatives disagreed. The risk was too great. If they attacked and failed, they would look weak and desperate. If they attacked and succeeded, they would validate everything humanity had said about the council. being a system designed to suppress advancement through force. Either outcome would accelerate the collapse of council authority, while the ancient powers argued. The younger civilizations were making their own decisions. 3 members of the Emergence Coalition formally announced they were opening direct negotiations with humanity for bilateral treaties. They didn't ask the Council's permission. They simply did it. Within hours, 6 more civilizations followed suit. Then 12. Then 20. The Council's authority over interstellar relations was disintegrating before everyone's eyes. If they couldn't control diplomatic relationships, what was the point of the Council at all? Tae-young received a personal message from Daeho, the former ambassador who had delivered humanity's withdrawal statement. They had known each other slightly during Tae-young's time on Earth. "You helped reveal the truth," the message said. "For that, humanity is grateful. But you should know what's calm." Next, the Council's hardliners are going to launch an attack. We've been monitoring their communications. We're prepared, but there will be casualties. Innocent people caught in the crossfire. If you can do anything to stop it, please try. Tae-young took the message to Corlin and her associates in the Emergence Coalition. They took it to the few reasonable voices left in the Council leadership. But by then, it was already too late. The strike fleet launched from 3 different staging areas simultaneously. Over 1,000 ships representing the combined military might of the Council's ancient powers. Their target wasn't Earth itself. Even the most aggressive Council members weren't ready to attack humanity's homeworld. Instead, they aimed for 3 human outposts in neutral space. Recently established, colonies that would be easier targets than heavily defended core systems. The fleet commanders expected resistance. They were prepared for casualties. What they weren't prepared for was complete, total defeat within minutes of engaging. Human defense systems appeared from nowhere, surrounding each attack force before they could react. The same technology that had disabled the Vrex fleet was deployed on a massive scale. Every ship went dark simultaneously. Weapons, engines, communications, everything stopped working. Over 1,000 warships drifted helplessly in space, their crews trapped inside but unharmed. Then the ships started moving again, but not under their crew's control. They were being towed gently but inexorably back toward Council space. Human platforms escorted them the entire way, ensuring no one tried to regain control. When they reached the border, all systems were restored except for weapons, which remained locked. A message played on every ship simultaneously. It was High Commander Jae-hoon again, but this time his tone was harder, less diplomatic. "This is your only warning," he said. "Humanity has shown mercy twice now. The Vrex fleet was returned intact. This strike force is being returned intact. There will not be a third time. Any future military action against human interests will be met with overwhelming force. We do not want war, but we will not tolerate aggression." The message continued. "We tried to be partners in the Council. We tried to work within the system. We were systematically blocked, controlled, and limited. When we discovered plans to make these limitations permanent, we chose independence. You have now attacked us twice for making that choice. The galaxy must decide if this is the kind of civilization you want to be." The humiliated fleet returned to Council space. The crews were physically unharmed, but psychologically devastated. They had been made powerless, treated like children being scolded rather than warriors being defeated. It was a more effective demonstration than any destruction could have been. In the aftermath, several civilizations withdrew from the Council entirely. The Emergence Coalition's membership doubled in a single day. Ambassador Velkaris, who had pushed hardest for military action, was removed from his position. Premier Zelkoth announced his resignation. Though it was clear he had been forced out, the Galactic Council, which had maintained order for thousands of years, was falling apart. And humanity, which had tried to leave quietly, had become the center of everything. The vote took 3 days. Every member civilization had to decide whether to accept humanity's terms or reject them and face an uncertain future without Earth's participation in galactic affairs. The debate was fierce, splitting along predictable lines. Ancient civilizations resisted, arguing that accepting these demands would set a dangerous precedent. Younger civilizations supported the terms, seeing them as necessary reforms that were long overdue. Director Sangwoo stood before the council to explain how humanity had achieved their rapid advancement. The chamber was only half full now. Many civilizations had withdrawn there, representatives in protest of either humanity's demands or the council's past policies. The audience that remained listened with rapt attention. "You want to know our secret?" Sangwoo began. "There is no secret. We succeeded because you tried to limit us. When we discovered the conspiracy to control our development, Earth's governments did something unprecedented. We united completely. Every nation, every corporation, every research institution focused on a single goal, achieving technological independence so thorough that we would never be vulnerable to outside control again." He brought up holographic displays showing Earth's transformation over the past 30 years. We pooled resources on a global scale. Competition between nations became collaboration. Military spending was redirected to research and development. We stopped fighting each other and started working together. The constraints you tried to impose didn't weaken us. They forged us into something stronger than we could have become without that pressure. The presentation continued with detailed explanations of humanity's breakthroughs. Faster-than-light travel without traditional quantum drives, achieved by approaching the problem from completely new theoretical frameworks. Energy manipulation at scales previously thought impossible, developed through integrated AI systems that could process computational problems too complex for biological minds. Self-replicating construction technology that could build megastructures using only raw materials and time. "You assumed we would develop like you did," Sangwoo said. "Slowly, incrementally, building on technologies developed over thousands of years. But we couldn't afford that luxury. We knew you were limiting us. We knew time was running out. So we took risks you would never take. We pursued research directions you had abandoned as too dangerous or too unpredictable. Many of our experiments failed catastrophically, but the ones that succeeded changed everything." He paused, looking around the chamber at the mix of alien faces. "You feared what we might become? You tried to prevent it through control and limitation. In doing so, you created exactly what you feared. That's the irony of it. If you had treated us as equals from the beginning, we might have developed more slowly, more carefully. Your fear accelerated the very outcome you wanted to prevent." The presentation ended. Sangwoo bowed and left the chamber. Behind him, representatives argued among themselves. Processing what they had learned, Ambassador Mison presented humanity's final terms to the Council 3 days later. She stood at the same platform where Daeho had announced Earth's withdrawal 6 months earlier. "The symmetry wasn't accidental. Humanity will return to active participation in galactic affairs under the following non-negotiable conditions."
Ow.
She began. "First, complete technological sovereignty. No civilization or council body will have any authority to restrict, delay, or regulate human technological development. Second, equal representation in all council decisions regardless of our membership duration. The era of junior and senior members ends today. Third, immediate dissolution of all bureaucratic structures designed to limit member advancement. Fourth, protection for younger civilizations from the same exploitation humanity experienced." She let the terms settle before continuing. "The Council has 1 week to accept or reject these terms. If they are accepted, humanity will share our technological advances with any civilization that wishes to benefit from them. We will help younger species avoid the limitations we faced. We will work to build a truly cooperative galactic community. If the terms are rejected, humanity will continue in isolation and build our own sphere of influence independently. The choice is yours." The vote was scheduled for exactly 7 days later. Those 7 days were filled with intense political maneuvering. The ancient powers tried desperately to maintain their control. The younger civilizations pushed for acceptance. Smaller factions tried to negotiate compromises that would preserve some of the old hierarchical structure. Taeyong watched the process from outside the political system now. He had resigned from his advisory positions after helping expose the Council's conspiracy. He existed in a strange limbo, neither fully accepted by the aliens he had served, nor yet welcomed back by the humanity he had left. But Deho had sent him a message: come home when you're ready. There's work to do building something better. Youngmi returned to Earth and was given unprecedented access to the projects humanity had hidden for decades. She visited construction facilities on Mars, where the self-replicating systems had been perfected. She toured research stations in the asteroid belt where the new FTL technology was developed. She interviewed scientists, engineers, and administrators who had worked in complete secrecy to ensure humanity's survival. The story she wrote was published across the galaxy simultaneously, bypassing all censorship systems. It was a complete account of everything that had happened, from the initial discovery of the Council's conspiracy to the final ultimatum. It was the most read document in galactic history. The vote arrived. The ancient civilizations voted against accepting humanity's terms as expected, but they were outnumbered. The younger civilizations, joined by several mid-age species who had grown frustrated with their own limited advancement, voted overwhelmingly in favor. The measure passed with 67% approval. The Galactic Council would be reformed. The hierarchical structure that had existed for thousands of years would be dismantled. New rules would be established, ensuring that technological advancement was encouraged rather than restricted. Humanity would take its place as an equal partner in galactic civilization. Ambassador Haiyan Wu arrived to represent Earth in the Reformed Council. He was younger than Deho, representing a new generation of human diplomats who had grown up knowing that the galaxy wasn't always fair or honest. He took his seat in a chamber that had been physically redesigned. The elevated platforms where senior members once sat were gone. Every representative now sat at the same level. "This is a new beginning," Haiyan Wu said in his first address to the council. "Not just for humanity, but for all of us. The old order was built on fear and control. The new order will be built on cooperation and mutual advancement. There will be challenges. Old powers don't surrender influence easily. But if we remain committed to fairness and equality, we can create something better than what came before." Earth began sharing its technology, starting with the younger civilizations that had supported the reforms. Self-replicating construction systems were delivered to worlds that lacked the industrial base to build their own megastructures. Medical technology that could cure previously untreatable diseases was distributed freely. Educational programs were established to train alien scientists in the theoretical frameworks that had enabled humanity's breakthroughs. Not everyone was happy. Several ancient civilizations withdrew from the council entirely, choosing isolation rather than participating in a system they no longer controlled. The Vrex Dominion was among them, too proud to accept equality with civilizations they had once considered inferior. But most species chose to stay and adapt to the new reality. Deho sat in his retirement home on the coast of Korea, watching waves roll onto the beach. He had spent his entire career working for this moment, though he hadn't known it at the time. All those years of frustration, of seeing proposals delayed and opportunities blocked, had led to this transformation. Humanity had been forced to stand alone, and in doing so, they had learned to fly. He opened his personal journal to make a final entry. "The galaxy tried to keep us small," he wrote. "They feared our potential and tried to limit our growth. They never imagined that forcing us to stand alone would only make us stronger. They treated us as children to be controlled rather than partners to be respected. They learned too late that respect cannot be demanded. It must be earned. And once earned, it cannot be taken away." He closed the journal and looked out at the ocean. Somewhere above, human ships were helping alien civilizations build their futures without artificial limitations. The galaxy was changing, becoming what it always should have been. A community of equals, working together not because they were forced to, but because they chose to. It hadn't been an easy journey. There had been costs and risks. But in the end, humanity had achieved what they set out to do. They had secured their freedom and their future. And in doing so, they had made the galaxy better for everyone. The waves continued rolling onto the shore, eternal and unchanging. But above them, among the stars, everything had changed. and there was no going back.